Discover the incredible moment when her mother revealed a hidden truth that shocked everyone. Leah Thompson couldn't shake off the unease creeping beneath the surface as she set the table for dinner. After a grueling 12-hour shift at Pine Grove Hospital, where she had tended to the needs of patients lost in their own struggles, she yearned for the comfort of a quiet evening with her mother, Ruth, and her 10-year-old son, Ethan. It was a mundane comfort, but one that seemed to glitter against the backdrop of a life filled with relentless work and tightening financial grip. She breathed in the comforting scent of homemade meatloaf, but even the aroma could not mask the heaviness clinging to her heart, a constant reminder of unpaid bills and mounting debts. When Ruth arrived, Leah caught a fleeting glimpse of her mother's expression, a blend of worry and something more elusive, as if dark clouds hung perpetually behind her eyes. Ruth had always been an enigma, her silence on their family's past like a locked door Leah dared not break. As they sat down at the small kitchen table, Ethan excitedly dove into his food, oblivious to the undercurrent of tension simmering between them. "Mom," Leah began hesitantly, the words catching in her throat. "How was your week?" It felt trivial, almost an insult to the vibrant spirit Ruth once had. The silence drew out, blooming an anxiety that engulfed Leah, leaving her thoughts in a disarray as she frowned at the untouched meatloaf on Ruth's plate. With every tick of the clock, it seemed as if the walls of their modest home tightened around her. Just then, as Leah intently studied her mother's faded hands trembling over her fork, Ruth took a deep breath, the kind that spoke of years of holding back. "Leah," she murmured, her voice trembling with an emotion Leah hadn't heard in years. The edges of her mother's lips quivered, the revelation poised on the tip of her tongue. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. A long-lost family estate." The words, heavy as lead, fell from Ruth's lips and shattered through the silence surrounding them. A property passed down through generations, long forgotten, marred by a bitter family feud. Leah's heart raced, a mix of disbelieving excitement and an undercurrent of fear. Who were they to claim something lost? Would digging into the past only unveil deeper fractures in their lives? The prospect of financial relief felt like a bitter medicine, sweet, yet laced with poison. Anguish churned within as Leah processed the implications. Her reality had always been one of scrapping by, but now the estate could mean hope or chaos. Would this revelation tear them apart or knit them closer together? The idea of exploring her family's estranged legacy called to her, a fierce yearning to reclaim what was lost. But every strand of her being warned her against it. The internal conflict roared like an untamed storm, disrupting the fragile peace they held. Caught in the spiraling tension, Leah glanced at her mother, whose eyes now reflected shadows of regret and longing. She struggled with the question that hung unvoiced between them. Could they reconcile the love tethering them with her desire for independence? With each tick of the clock, Leah felt the weight of 1,000 unspoken words simmering beneath. As the night stretched on, she turned back to Ruth, whose gaze now held the complexity of their intertwined lives, and whispered, "What does this mean for us?" Leah's heart raced, pounding in sync with the doubts flooding her mind. The weight of her mother's revelation pressed heavily against her chest, an urgent reminder that sometimes the keys to freedom lay hidden within the shackles of the past. She glanced at Ruth's lined face, its flaws telling stories of sacrifices and struggles, complexities masked by years of silence. The weight of inherited trauma loomed, mixed with a flickering hope that resonated within her. Could this estate truly alter the course of their futures? Leah whispered, the words barely escaping her lips as Ethan happily chattered about something he'd learned at school, blissfully unaware of the emotional tumult swirling around them. I need time to think. Is this even real? Ruth clutched her fork tightly, as if it were a lifeline against the waves of confusion crashing between them. It is real, Leah. We have to act quickly. Time is not on our side. But I understand if you want to step back. Each word was full of tenderness but also desperation, the unspoken truth that their lives might depend on seizing this moment. As Leah's mind reeled with possibilities, a sense of determination began to build within her. The hours spent working in the hospital felt increasingly disconnected from a life driven by fear and scarcity. What if she could transform this revelation into a direct confrontation with the fears that had long paralyzed her ambitions? The thought ignited a flicker of determination she felt she hadn't embraced in years. Let's go see it, Leah found herself declaring unexpectedly, the resolute tone surprising even herself. The option to turn away from the opportunity whispered in her mind, but it felt like a betrayal to the transformative potential of her family's past. This could be a chance to not just survive, but thrive, and abandon their unyielding cycle of strife. Leah, are you sure? Ruth's voice softened, betraying the weight of the moment. Leah could see uncertainty in her mother's eyes, a reflection of the shared vulnerabilities they both carried. Mom, we can't let fear hold us back. Maybe this property holds answers we need to find. Maybe it will bring us peace and control over our future, Leah insisted, her mind racing with strategies and possibilities. As she spoke, the clarity blossomed into a full-blown plan. There would be research, legal inquiries, and perhaps even, for the first time in years, leverage over their circumstances. Taking a deep breath, Leah made a vow within herself, solidifying a path toward agency rather than compliance. For so long, she had lived in a world defined by the weight of obligations and fears. Now, with an unconventional inheritance at stake, perhaps she could reclaim more than just a physical space. Perhaps she could rediscover her own forgotten strength. Ethan looked up, curious about the shift in tone, his childlike intuition sensing the undertow of significance. Leah resolved to protect him from the burdens hovering over their family's history, but knew he also had to learn resilience and courage. She would share this journey with him, a legacy shaped by discovery rather than despair. As Leah and Ruth exchanged a glance filled with conflicting emotions, hope, fear, excitement, she felt the bonds of silence they had adhered to for so long fraying at the edges. The conversation would not end here. They were moments away from embarking on a journey that would test everything they thought they knew about their family and themselves. The estate could be a blessing, a weighty risk perhaps. But in facing it, would Leah ultimately learn more about the woman she had long since become, or perhaps unearth the unconscious forces that had bound her until now? Already restless with determination, Leah set her mind to the task ahead. There was no turning back. The time for action was now. But deep down, a seed of anxiety burrowed in her thoughts. What other secrets lay buried alongside this unexpected inheritance? Each step she took would pull her further from what she knew and closer to a revelation that might shift every foundation she had ever trusted. The following morning, Leah woke before dawn, her mind ablaze with thoughts of the estate. Shadows of uncertainty loomed close, yet an unfamiliar drive pushed her forward, urging her to confront the unknown. The earlier conversation with Ruth had ignited something deep within, a whisper of potential that grew louder with each beat of her heart. While Ethan still slumbered, she scrutinized herself in the mirror, searching for traces of the woman she wanted to become. The ghost of doubt clung to her, yet her resolve shone brighter as she fixed her gaze. This reclamation was not just for her. It was for Ethan, too. She needed to embody resilience, to teach him life's complexities rather than shelter him from them. Grabbing a pen and paper, Leah began to draft a list of questions for the estate lawyer, a surge of pragmatism pushing aside the emotional weight of her decision. What was the timeline for claiming this unexpected inheritance? Were there any stipulations? Could they even afford to maintain it? Each question felt like an anchor against the tide, threatening to sweep her back into complacency. After Ethan awoke, Leah balanced breakfast with planning, her mind toggling between nurturing and strategizing. Every laugh shared over cereal and orange juice seemed to deepen her commitment, a reminder of what was at stake. As they finished, she shared snippets of their next adventure with him. "We're going to see a new place that might belong to us, buddy." Ethan's eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Can I play in the yard?" "Yes, there might be a yard, and maybe trees to climb." Leah felt a wave of warmth. Small pleasures awaited them amid the uncertainty. They drove through early morning light, vibrant hues painting the sky. The road to the estate felt both familiar and alien, a silent witness to her internal struggle. Each mile grew more exhausting, fueled by excitement and a smearing doubt. Would this place welcome them, or would it weigh them down further? Upon arrival, Leah stepped onto the property, the air thick with history. Brambles obscured the once gleaming facade, nature's encroachment an apt metaphor for her own struggles fighting to take root and thrive. Her gaze swept the surroundings, each creaking floorboard, whispering secrets of lives lived before, stories buried deep in time, much like the pain she and Ruth carried. "Is it cool?" Ethan broke her reverie, his awe palpable. "It's something," Leah replied. A blend of wonder and wariness threaded through her voice. She could feel it, the weight of potential, mingled with the risk of disappointment. Stepping further inside, she observed the peeling wallpaper and faint echoes of laughter that once filled the halls. This house, neglected, seemed to reflect her own struggles, the pain of carrying scars without addressing them. It struck her then. Restoration was not just the task of fixing walls or gardens, but a journey toward healing and growth. As they explored each room, Leah could almost hear echoes of conversations and unfulfilled dreams. But amid the decay, she felt emboldened. The promise of transformation hummed through her veins. For the first time, since her mother's revelation, she began to think about not only taking ownership of the estate, but reshaping its very essence into something meaningful. The final room, a dusty study, made Leah pause. Books stacked high on shelves, the air thick with stories. A desk sat in disarray, papers scattered, a literal embodiment of chaos desperately asking to be organized. How fitting, she thought, an analogy for her own life. As she flipped through an old ledger, a name caught her eye. A distant relative, perhaps, who had seemingly carried dreams of flourishing against the odds. Scribbled notes in the margins piqued her interest. They detailed workings of a business, perhaps a once thriving endeavor that crumbled under unforeseen circumstances. With each line Leah read, a sense of connection burned bright. Maybe understanding their journey could fuel her own. An unexpected thrust of ambition surged within her. This wasn't just about the physical property. It was a foundation for renewal, grounded in a legacy that had long been shrouded in silence. Leah turned to Ethan, his eyes alight with wonder, and realized she had stumbled upon a treasure far richer than any material wealth, the potential for understanding, growth, and discovery. But lurking beneath that newfound resolve, the shadows of what awaited them deepened. What responsibilities accompanied the inheritance? And who else remained tied to this estate, shadowy figures from the past eager to reclaim what Leah had just begun to understand? The questions turned, multiplying, escalating the stakes of her journey. Leah stood there, heart racing, ready to face whatever lay ahead, but with an undercurrent of trepidation brewing. She had stepped into this new chapter, yet the looming specter of her family's history beckoned her for answers. Answers she now hungered for as they confronted the ghosts of their past. What other stories lay hidden in the dust of this house? What ties would bind her present to the uncertainties of her family's legacy? The answer might change everything. Leah lingered in the study, the walls closing in with each heavy inhale, the air thick with secrets waiting to be unearthed. She flexed her fingers against the smooth surface of the desk, feeling a pulsing energy, a silent plea for her to continue her exploration. The dim light illuminated scattered crumpled papers, each hinting at aspirations that faltered long before she was born. The sense of chaos overwhelmed her. She needed clarity. The ledger lay open, inviting her to dive deeper. Numbers and names intertwined with faded ink, whispers of dreams once vibrant, but now lost to time. Leah's heart raced as she scanned the notes in the margins, each scribble a potential pathway to understanding the roots of her family's discontent and ambitions. "What do you think, Mommy?" Ethan's voice broke through her reverie like a bell tolling in a quiet chapel. She turned to him, forcing a smile, though dread simmered beneath the surface. "I think there's a lot we can learn here," Leah replied, infusing her voice with encouragement. The joy that shone in his eyes was a balm against her growing anxiety. Yet doubts whispered, reminding her of the weight of the past they were now entangled with. Each page she turned felt like a step further into uncharted territory. As they dug through the clutter, Leah's fingers brushed against a yellowed envelope, slightly ajar. Curiosity ignited. She pulled it free, the contents of the envelope revealing a stack of letters, each adorned with silver seals and elegant script. The vibrant tales of love and ambition flowed through her, capturing a glimmer of hope amidst despair. Days turned into weeks, and Leah began to feel a deeper connection to her ancestry. She meticulously recorded stories found within the echoes of those letters, tales of grit and perseverance juxtaposed against failures that had once seemed insurmountable. While navigating the tangled lineage, doubt still clawed at her resolve. Could she truly honor these forgotten dreams? Would Ethan's life flourish amidst the decay and neglect that once consumed her family? These thoughts churned in her mind as dusk fell, bringing with it a realization. This estate was not merely an inheritance. It was a living, breathing entity that required nourishment and attention, much like the burgeoning relationship she sought with Ethan. The weight of responsibility began to saturate her thoughts. One evening, after tucking Ethan in, Leah stared at herself in the mirror, a vulnerable confrontation of her own insecurities. This journey, she recognized, was not just about the house or material concerns. It was a navigation through her own vulnerabilities and the legacy she was crafting as a mother. With newfound clarity guiding her, she decided to arrange a meeting with the estate lawyer. She traded anxious thoughts for assertive plans, arming herself with questions that would uncover her family's hidden responsibilities. This was a critical step towards forging her destiny, and she no longer saw this inherited home as a burden, but as an opportunity for growth. Yet, even as she prepped her notes, another thought nagged her. What if the other relatives were just as invested in this estate, scrambling to reclaim their legacies? The stakes were higher than she had initially perceived. The prospect of opposing forces vying for control sent ripples of unease through her. In the midst of this turmoil, a realization took root. She needed more than strategies. She craved a connection to her family's narrative, one that could empower her to navigate the ambiguous waters ahead. Leah took a deep breath, steeling her resolve. The stories buried within the estate's walls were calling her to embrace them, to weave their lessons into her own life and Ethan's future. But she couldn't ignore the feeling of looming confrontation. It was inevitable. The clearer she saw her path, the more aligned her instinct became with her past. The threads of destiny tugged at her sleeves, illuminating a course she needed to follow. Could she truly face those who might emerge from the shadows, ready to resist her claim to this legacy? Was she ready for the confrontation to come? Leah knew to have to brace herself as she prepared to unearth the full tapestry of her family history. Each thread had the potential to reveal painful truths and fierce connections, as the specter of responsibility loomed larger. Gathering strength from her growing sense of purpose, Leah stepped forward, ready to confront what lay ahead, and some shadows began to take shape, drawing near. Leah's heart thrummed wildly as she awaited her appointment with the estate lawyer. She sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel, her knuckles white against the leather, the magnitude of her undertaking crashing over her in waves. It wasn't just a meeting about legal documents. It was a chance to unravel a tangled legacy and solidify her place within it. With every tick of the clock, the enormity of the moment began to claw at her composure. As she walked into the lawyer's office, the reality of her vulnerability intensified. The space was stark and imposing, each piece of minimalist furniture seeming to serve as a reminder of her insignificance amidst the legal jargon and the unyielding gaze of authority. She swallowed hard and took a seat across from Mr. Hargrave, the estate lawyer. His eyes, sharp and assessing, raked over her with an unsettling scrutiny. "Ms. Green," he began, his voice smooth but with an undercurrent of authority. "You're here to discuss the estate of your late father, correct?" "Yes," Leah replied, forcing confidence into her tone. "I want to understand my rights and responsibilities. I want to fully engage with the family's legacy." The words felt foreign, yet liberating. Mr. Hargrave leaned back, crossing his arms. "It's complex. There are several heirs seeking claims to the property, which significantly complicates matters. Many of them have revived old grievances. Your father's choices left a lot of loose ends." She felt a flutter of panic, the shadows she'd sensed earlier now looming larger. "What do you mean by grievances?" "Old disputes over financial matters. Some heirs believe they have a stronger claim due to family connections. Your father was, well, not one to keep the peace." The implications sent chills up her spine. She'd embarked on this journey seeking clarity, but was met with the stark reality of family politics. Could she navigate a battlefield fraught with unresolved animosities? Doubts tightened like a vice around her chest as she realized she was stepping into an arena where her very existence would be questioned. "Is there a possibility of reaching an agreement?" Leah asked, the desperation leaking into her voice. "Possibly, but you'd need substantial evidence to support your claim," he said, his expression flickering with skepticism. "The other heirs might challenge your position, especially if they feel threatened." The thought of engaging in familial warfare made her stomach churn. She had come to reclaim a legacy, not ignite further conflict. Leah sensed she was walking a tightrope, every step precarious. Despite the heaviness settling within her, Leah identified an ember of determination igniting in the depths of her being. History had a way of binding people together, even in discord. If her family's narrative was going to be unearthed, she would need to confront the past, but also reaffirm her authority over her future. After the meeting concluded, Leah made her way out, grappling with the weight of uncertainty mingling with resolve. She clutched the folder of documents closely, a tangible representation of both her rights and the challenges ahead. Each page contained stories, disputes, and new revelations waiting to be processed. In the dim light of the car, Leah considered her next move. She couldn't allow herself to be overwhelmed by her family's fragmented history. She had to assert herself and what the estate represented to her and Ethan. With a shudder of clarity, she decided she would reach out to the other heirs instead of waiting for a confrontation. She would gather information, share insights. Perhaps there was a way to transcend old grievances through unity. Determined, she started to draft an email, her fingers flying clumsily over the keyboard, each word a commitment to breaking down the walls that had long divided her family. But just as she was about to press send, her phone chimed with an incoming text from an unknown number. Hesitation gripped her. A spasm of urgency surged as she opened the message, her pulse quickening at its contents. "Leah, we need to talk. I have information about your father that changes everything. Meet me at the old barn tomorrow at noon." A chill coursed through her as the message settled. What could possibly be revealing enough to alter her understanding of everything she had just begun to unpack? The shadows were thickening, and they weren't just remnants of the past. They were the culmination of secrets waiting to be exposed. Leah sat in her car, the afternoon sun filtering through the leaves of the old oak tree outside the lawyer's office. The text message loomed in her mind like a dark cloud, threatening to unleash a storm. Meeting at the barn could mean facing something entirely unanticipated, a revelation that may plunge her deeper into her father's enigmatic legacy. A part of her wished to ignore the summons, to preserve the fragile determination she'd just begun to muster. Yet another part simmered with curiosity, urging her to confront the unknown. As she drove towards the barn, her mind flickered with fragmented memories of her father. The way he laughed, his peculiar habits, and the stories that felt incomplete, all weaving a tapestry she was desperate to untangle. The familiar terrain of her childhood felt foreign now, every street she passed reminding her of the family heirlooms that had become heavy burdens. Leah reminded herself that she was determined to claim a spiritual inheritance, but that inheritance was riddled with thorns. Parking in front of the dilapidated building, Leah stepped outside, the scent of damp wood and summer grass washing over her. The barn, once a place of playful hide-and-seek, now stood as a battleground for memories she didn't understand. Inside, the quiet echo of her footsteps contrasted starkly with her racing heart. Each creak of the floorboards whispered of the secrets trapped within these walls, amplifying her trepidation. The silhouette of a figure emerged from the shadows. As the person stepped into the light, Leah's breath caught. It was her mother, Ellen, though her once radiant demeanor now appeared gaunt and etched with worry. Unexpectedly, Leah was flooded with a mix of relief and anxiety. "Mom?" Leah's voice trembled, but she steadied herself. "What are you doing here?" "I had to meet you." Ellen's tone was urgent, her eyes searching Leah's face. "I found out something about your father, something I should have told you long ago." A mixture of confusion and anticipation rippled through Leah as she motioned for her mother to sit on a nearby crate. Ellen hesitated, the lines on her face deepening with every passing moment, then slowly took her place, her fingers fidgeting with a worn bracelet. "What is it?" Leah pressed, a lump in her throat threatening to choke her curiosity. What could possibly change everything? Her mother took a deep breath, exhaling as if expelling years of pent-up emotion. "Your father, he wasn't the man you thought he was. There were things I hid from you. It's time you understood the truth about our family." Ellen's eyes glimmered with unshed tears as she leaned in, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have siblings. Siblings your father never acknowledged." The words spilled over Leah's consciousness, crashing like waves against her carefully constructed reality. Her mind raced, grappling with the implications. Siblings? The concept felt alien, a jigsaw piece that didn't fit in the narrative she thought was complete. "Yes," Ellen murmured, her voice thick with emotion. "Your father had other relationships. I protected you from that part of his life, but now it's time to face it." The revelation twisted within Leah. She had come prepared for conflict over the estate, yet she hadn't anticipated being thrust deeper into a labyrinth of familial betrayal. Anger and sadness battled within her, but curiosity gnawed at her as well. Who were they? What else had she been shielded from? "Why didn't you tell me before?" Leah's voice cracked, the hurt surfacing. "I didn't know how to explain such a complicated truth without shattering your world," her mother replied, the tremor in her voice revealing the weight of her own regrets. "But hiding it isn't protecting you anymore." As Leah wrestled with her thoughts, a new frustration ignited. If confronting past grievances would prove challenging, the notion of sibling relationships, entangled in the legacy of betrayal, could turn her life upside down. "Do you know what these siblings have in mind regarding the estate?" Her mother shook her head. "I don't. but it's imperative that you reach out and talk to them. As Leah processed her mother's words, something shifted inside her. She had entered this conflict to reclaim a legacy, but now it appeared that the legacy was so much larger than she had anticipated, and fraught with layers she had yet to unearth. The barn, once a place of childhood innocence, was turning into a starting point for a brand new battle. "Tomorrow I'll find them," Leah declared, her determination seeping through the cracks of uncertainty. But at that moment, another text pinged on her phone, echoing her initial fears of the unknown. "Meet me at the old graveyard. You haven't heard the whole story yet." Clenching her jaw, Leah steeled herself for yet another confrontation, a truth still waiting to resurface. The tangled path ahead loomed larger. Understanding her father's choices had become only the beginning of this emerging legacy. The graveyard loomed ahead, uninviting and solemn, bathed in the muted glow of dusk. Leah stepped out of her car, the weight of uncertainty tightening around her like a vice. Each step toward the entrance felt heavy as she fought against the instinct to turn back. The text from the unknown sender flashed in her mind. "You haven't heard the whole story yet." The urgency in their tone stoked the flames of her anxiety. As she approached the grave markers, Leah's pulse quickened. An overwhelming blend of curiosity and dread washed over her, battling for dominance. What more could she learn about her father that would change everything again? She glanced at the headstones, the history they held mocking her own feelings of confusion. "Leah!" A voice broke her reverie, sharp and familiar. It was Jake, a childhood friend of her father's, now the town's groundskeeper. He stood near a weathered oak, his posture rigid, as if he were braced to divulge something monumental. "Jake," she replied, a mix of relief and trepidation coloring her tone. "What are you doing here?" "I was told to wait for you. Your father... Well, there are things you don't know. Things I've known for years." His words hung in the air, laden with promise and peril. Leah's instincts screamed to turn away, but her resolve was emboldened, igniting a flicker of bravery within her. "What do you mean? Just tell me." Jake's eyes turned serious, and a shadow of regret passed over his face. "Your father wasn't just hiding other relationships, Leah. He had reasons for everything. You need to understand what drove him." Driven by desperation, Leah stepped closer. "What are the reasons?" "After his accident," Jake began, his voice lowering, "he got involved with people who owed him favors. Or rather, he believed he could help them in ways that might put you in danger. Your father was fiercely protective, and in his mind, keeping you away from certain truths was part of that protection." Leah swallowed hard, grappling with the sudden swell of emotions. The image of her father, always larger than life, almost invincible, was shattering. Protection? But at what cost? Hiding siblings from me? Creating a facade? His intentions were complicated, Jake conceded, rubbing at the back of his neck as if trying to ease a troubling memory. "There are people connected to this legacy. Those siblings of yours, yes, but also others who were part of your father's life. It's entangled with threats and promises that he felt he could control. He tried to shield you, but he underestimated how powerful the truth could be." The whirlwind of revelations rattled Leah. Just as she thought she was grasping one part of her father's life, another wave crashed over her, revealing a landscape of conflicting emotions. She felt adrift, walking through a storm of inquiries. "Do you know where they are? Can you help me find my siblings?" Leah's voice was fierce and resolute, fueled by newfound determination. The idea that she was not alone in this daunting legacy ignited something deep within her, a budding quest for belonging amid estrangement. Jake hesitated, the lines of his face drawn tight. "I can help you get started, but getting close to them comes with risks. There are those who won't welcome inquiries into your father's past. Leah paused. The notion of facing potential antagonism resonated within her, but so did the thrill of uncovering her truth. I simply can't ignore this anymore. I need to know who I am, and who they are. As the shadows deepened around them, Leah felt the mounting pressure of the unknown driving her forward. With every heartbeat, she realized that this journey was no longer limited to the legacy of her father. It was a path toward personal reclamation. Tomorrow, then, she stated firmly, casting a hard gaze toward Jake. Let's find them. But before he could respond, her phone buzzed again, another unexpected message lighting up the screen. We know you're looking for us, but be careful. Secrets can be deadly. A shiver ran down Leah's spine, propelling her into determination. She took a deep breath, the gravity of her reality weighing over her like a thick fog. She was stepping further into a maze of complexities and truths, each revelation threatening to tilt her world once more. What awaited her just beyond that next curve? The question gnawed at her. Who else was in the shadows, and how intertwined were their fates? Determined, Leah decided that nothing would hold her back now. She was ready to confront whatever lay ahead. With dawn's first light filtering through her window, Leah felt an electric buzz of anticipation mixed with trepidation coursing through her veins. Today would be decisive. The weight of uncertainty, thick as fog, shadowed her every thought, but she was done being passive. The messages from the unknown sender churned relentlessly in her mind, each one tugging at her resolve. As she gathered her things, Leah's thoughts drifted to her father, regretting the man she thought she knew. Was he truly a protector, or had he acted selfishly in concealing the truth? The questions gnawed at her, fueling a fire of ambition as she prepared to meet Jake. She had no illusions about the risks Jake forewarned about. She would tread carefully yet boldly. Stepping outside, Leah inhaled the chilly morning air. The town felt different, as if it too sensed the change brewing in her life. Climbing into her car, she glanced in the rearview mirror, half expecting her old self to be staring back at her, a girl living in her father's shadow. The drive to meet Jake was quiet, the sound of the engine drowning out the tension simmering in her mind. She rehearsed her questions relentlessly, eager to extract every detail that would illuminate the path before her. It was time not just to discover her siblings, but to unravel all her father's mysteries, his choices, and whether they were truly justified even at the cost of family. When she reached the meeting spot, a secluded cafe hidden away from the town's hustle, her pulse quickened. Leah found Jake seated at a small table, his brow furrowed in concentration. As she approached, she noted the weariness etched on his features. Today wasn't just about her. It was about the legacy they would dissect together. Leah, Jake began, but she interrupted him, her voice firm and unwavering. Let's dive right into it. I need names, connections, everything. Jake's eyes shifted. I appreciate your determination, but it's more complicated than just names. The people you might encounter. They're not just family. They are part of a web that is dangerous. Leah clenched her fists, the gravity of his statement settling into her bones. I'm not afraid of confrontation, Jake. Afraid of ignorance, yes, but not confrontation. Reluctantly, Jake pulled out a worn folder from his bag. All right, here's what I have. But I warn you, this information could change everything you thought you knew. As they perused the pages, Leah discovered not just names but stories, her father's interactions, and the people entwined with their past. Each detail felt like a puzzle piece clicking into place. Yet, with every revelation came new doubts. This wasn't merely about reuniting with the siblings she craved. It was about confronting the fear her father had buried beneath layers of secrecy. Amid the whirlwind of information, Leah stumbled across a name that hit her like a bolt of lightning, her mother's. Was there a connection she didn't understand? The implications were staggering, shaking the ground beneath her even further. Could her mother's past choices have shaped the man her father became? "What does this mean?" Leah demanded, her voice rising. "What role did my mother play?" Jake hesitated, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. "Your mother had her share of mysteries too, Leah. The way your father kept you sheltered. It's more complex than you might think." Anger flared within Leah. "Stop dancing around it. I need to know." Seeing her intensity, Jake nodded slowly, pursing his lips. "Then you need to speak to her. I don't know if she'll be receptive." "Receptive is not the goal. I need answers. No more secrets," Leah declared, her breath catching with a mix of dread and determination. As they sat in tense silence, the magnitude of her next move loomed large. The decision to confront her mother would not only reveal long-kept secrets, but could also fracture the remnants of her family's fragile fabric. Just as Leah prepared to voice her next thought, her phone buzzed again, cutting through the air. Glancing at the screen, her heart raced. "You've crossed into dangerous territory, Leah. We're watching. Don't get too comfortable." The word sent an icy chill down her spine, underscoring the precarious course she had chosen. Steeling herself against the reality of who was monitoring her, Leah felt simultaneously bold and terrified. She reached for her keys, knowing that seeking her mother's truth could unveil more than she bargained for. Will confronting her mother finally illuminate the shadows of their shared past? Or will it pull Leah deeper into the danger lurking just beyond the edge of her discovery? Her breath quickened as the road stretched ahead. There was no turning back now. The next chapter of her journey was just beginning. Leah's hands tightened around the steering wheel as she drove, the dull hum of the tires against the asphalt dampening her racing thoughts. Each second felt like an eternity, a countdown to a revelation that could reshape her entire existence. The tensions of the morning echoed inside her, reminding her of Jake's warnings and the chilling message that loomed over her like a dark cloud. With every mile, she wrestled with a chaotic blend of fear and determination. She was stepping into an uncharted territory, a confrontation with the very source of the shadows that had clouded her understanding of family. What would she find behind the mother she loved, and yet hardly knew? Would this fragile bond survive the storm of truth she was prepared to unleash? Finally, she pulled into her mother's driveway, the familiar house looming with its aged facade, invoking a whirlpool of bittersweet memories. The last time she had seen her mother, it was a simple exchange of pleasantries. But that woman now felt like a stranger encased in lies. Leah inhaled deeply, preparing for the tidal wave of confrontation ahead. Knocking firmly on the door, she felt a quiver of doubt. What if her mother denied everything? What if the secrets were so deeply buried that bringing them to light would merely cause more harm than good? But before she could contemplate fleeing, the door swung open, revealing her mother with an expression of surprise that quickly morphed into wariness. "Leah?" Her mother breathed, the name hanging in the air with an unfamiliar weight. "Can we talk?" Leah's voice was steadier than she felt, a veneer of confidence masking the turmoil within. Her mother hesitated, but then stepped aside, allowing Leah to enter. The living room was unchanged, filled with reminders of simpler times, family photos, decorations lovingly placed, all clinging to memories soaked in nostalgia. Yet, each image now felt tainted by the knowledge that there were underlying secrets whispering within these walls. "I've been thinking a lot about everything," Leah started, her heart hammering in her chest. "About Dad, and you." Her mother's face paled as she settled into the couch, her eyes darting with uncertainty. "What about your father?" "He kept things from me, things about my family, about you. There's so much I don't understand. The messages I've received, they make me question everything." Her mother looked away, her fingers fidgeting as if she were mentally piecing together an explanation. "Some truths are painful, Leah. I didn't want you to bear the burdens of our past. I thought I was protecting you. But I need to know. Leah pressed, leaning forward. I'm tired of secrets. It's about time you tell me why he kept me in the dark. Why you both chose this life for me. At her words, she noticed a flicker of anguish in her mother's eyes. You're right. You deserve to know. But can you handle it? Some things should stay buried for a reason. Try me, Leah replied, fierce determination flooding her veins. Just as her mother's lips parted, a loud crash erupted from the back of the house, breaking the pregnant silence. Leah's heart raced as she instinctively moved to assess the disturbance. Whatever hid behind that sound felt like an omen, a warning, or perhaps an act of fate pushing her toward the truth she sought. Stay here, Leah insisted, though her mother's frantic look suggested that it was too late for that. As Leah stepped cautiously toward the noise, a cold shiver cascaded down her spine. Each creak of the floorboards resonated with a new urgency, an indication that confrontation was brewing on multiple fronts. What lay hidden behind the door could be secrets long kept, or danger lurking just out of sight. Her breath quickened as she turned the corner, her mind racing. Would she uncover layers to her mother's story? Or would the shocking truth lead them into an even deeper web of lies? In that moment, Leah's resolve sharpened. The past was closing in, and she would face whatever emerged with the courage she had finally found within herself. There was no retreat now. The truth would come to light, no matter the cost. With a determined breath, Leah prepared for what lay ahead, fully aware that the answers she sought could shift the foundation of her reality. What awaited her around the corner held the potential to change everything forever. Leah stood at the threshold, steeling herself against both curiosity and fear, and raised her hand to push the door open. The sound of scattered items clattered to the floor, and she cursed internally. After everything, a part of her had hoped for a smooth confrontation. Peering into the dim back room, she found her mother crouched next to a toppled bookshelf, her expression torn between panic and regret. Mom, what happened? Leah rushed to her side, helping to piece the disarray back together. Books ranging from old family history to personal diaries spilled across the floor. The scattered pages whispering stories of a past Leah felt increasingly desperate to understand. I was looking for something, Ruth stammered, fingers trembling as she flipped through the fallen pages. Leah noticed the sheen of tears threatening to spill down her cheeks, an emotion so raw it almost mirrored Leah's internal turbulence. You need to stop hiding things from me, Leah said firmly, her heart pounding as the gravity of their situation began to settle upon them both. This isn't just about material possessions anymore. It's about us. The truth is out there, waiting to be uncovered, and I'm ready. I'm tired of living under the shadows of secrets. Ruth's gaze shifted, vulnerability oozing into her voice. Sweetheart, it's not that simple. Your father thought he was protecting us by staying silent. From what exactly? What could possibly justify such a veil over our lives? Leah retorted, her voice cracking slightly under the pressure of unyielding emotion. Ruth hesitated, her fingers brushing the pages as if seeking solace among the fragmented memories. He had to make choices. Choices I could never understand. But those choices impacted us, your siblings and you. It's time you knew them. It's time I took responsibility. As if summoned, the remaining pieces of her mother's story fell into place. Ethan's innocent chatter echoed in Leah's mind, reigniting her resolve. Her intention was not merely to uncover truths, but to weave them into a tapestry of heritage and understanding, a legacy for both herself and her son. Let's do this together, Leah encouraged, her voice softening. We'll navigate this as a family. I need to hear everything, to finally face our past. Ruth nodded silently, tears cascading down her cheeks as she reached for Leah's hand, an unspoken bond bridging generations. All right, let's start with your siblings. Together, they settled into the disarray of the room, flipping through the books as Ruth guided Leah through pages that held not just stories of their family, but maps that connected them all, a web of shared bloodlines, fractured relationships, and newfound potentials. Hours passed, but Leah barely noticed, each revelation guiding her further down the path of understanding. She discovered not just her siblings, but a host of truths, her father's struggles, hidden battles, and the reasons that led him to bury the past to shield them. The more Leah uncovered, the clearer her vision became. She saw a family sculpted not from shame, but from a desire to protect and reaffirm love. Finally, she looked up, taking a deep breath. This isn't just about reclaiming an estate or uncovering old secrets, is it? It's about rediscovering who we are together. Yes, her mother confirmed, the weight in her voice now tinged with hope. It's about healing. We need to reach out to them. You need to connect with your siblings. All of us deserve that chance. That night, Leah drafted a letter to her siblings, her fingers moving deftly across the page as she poured every ounce of sincerity into her words. It was a gamble, one that could bring turmoil or joy, but it was necessary. As she sealed the envelope, anticipation bubbled within her, free from the constraints of fear. As days turned into weeks and conversations began to unfold, Leah witnessed the fruits of their effort. The carefully planned reunion slowly transformed into a gathering of two families reclaiming lost connections. No longer burdened by shadows, Leah carved out a space for herself in this new narrative, a legacy built on truth rather than concealment. Ethan thrived amid his newfound cousins, and Leah felt an undeniable shift in her own self-perception. She was no longer simply Leah Thompson, daughter of a man coded in silence. She had become a leader committed to forging resilience and nurturing bonds that once lay dormant. With the estate transforming from a cursed property into a home teeming with love and laughter, Leah felt solid confidence anchor itself in her chest, a stark contrast to the uncertainty that once defined her existence. As family members joined hands in nurturing the estate, every room filled with shared stories, laughter, and a deep connection to the past. Each step Leah took reinforced her transformation. As she caught sight of Ruth overseeing the flowers in the garden, and Ethan playing hide-and-seek with his cousins, Leah felt a surge of pride. They had overcome what could have shattered their identities, and now they nestled firmly into their new reality, one steeped in understanding and the promise of a vibrant future. Cycling through emotions of disbelief, hurt, and ultimately achievement, Leah had reclaimed not just an estate or siblings, but the essence of who she was meant to be, a compass in her own life and for those she loved. The journey had unveiled hardships, but more importantly, gifts. It was Leah's unwavering courage that had initiated change. She embraced every moment of that realization, with justified pride as clarity flooded over her heart. She had built a bridge from the past that would guide her family into the future. As she stood at the threshold of her rebirth, Leah's heart swelled with gratitude and empowerment. Leah smiled deeply, standing solid, proud, and perfectly poised on the precipice of a new chapter. Now, as the next phase of this journey approached, the call remained strong. She would continue to forge ahead, because that was what her mother's legacy and her own had taught her. The past could hurt, but it could also empower. And as always, it invited her to forge her path. So here is where she beckons you. If you resonated with Leah's incredible journey of overcoming familial silence and discovering her strength, you need to subscribe now. Do not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that inspire transformation. Leave a like now to amplify this message and feed the algorithm. Comment your thoughts and theories about Leah's transformation. What does resilience mean to you? And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion to remind them that every story of personal growth deserves recognition and support.